All right, let's talk about habits. Those hidden forces that pretty much run our daily lives. Today, we're going to crack the code on how they're built, why they have such a powerful grip on us, and, this is the best part, how you can actually take back control.
So let me ask you a quick question. What was the very first thing you did when you woke up this morning? I mean, really, think about it. Did you roll over and check your phone, stumble to the coffee machine, jump in the shower? Now, was that a conscious choice you made, or did it just kind of happen?
And that's the mind-blowing thing, isn't it? The vast majority of what we think of as our well-considered choices are not choices at all. They're just habits. They're these automatic routines that are stored away deep inside our brains, basically running our lives on autopilot.
Okay, so let's get into it. Why does our brain even bother creating habits in the first place? Well, it all boils down to one simple idea: efficiency. Habits are just the brain's clever way of saving a ton of energy.
And you can actually see this energy saving in action. Back in the 90s, MIT researchers watched rats trying to solve a maze. At first, you could see their brains were firing on all cylinders, just working like crazy. But as soon as they learned the route, as soon as it became automatic, a habit, their brain activity just plummeted. The habit gets handed off to this ancient part of the brain called the basal ganglia, which frees up the rest of your mind to focus on, more important things.
So how does the brain actually build one of these automatic routines? It turns out it follows this surprisingly simple three-step pattern that scientists have nicknamed the habit loop. This is literally the blueprint for every single habit you have, good or bad.
Okay, so it all kicks off with a cue. That's the trigger. It could be anything: a time of day, a certain place, a feeling you have, or even the people around you. That cue then unleashes the routine, which is the action itself. And finally, you get the reward. That's the little bit of pleasure or satisfaction that basically tells your brain, hey, that worked. Let's remember to do that again.
And what happens is, over time, this loop gets stronger and stronger. The cue and the reward get so tangled up in your brain that just experiencing the cue is enough to trigger this intense anticipation for the reward. That's what makes the loop so powerful, so automatic.
But here's the thing. That simple three-step loop, it's missing a secret ingredient. There's this hidden force that really powers the whole cycle and makes habits so incredibly hard to break.
To understand this, let's look at the story of Pepsodent toothpaste. Way back in the early 1900s, this advertising mastermind named Claude Hopkins basically created a national toothbrushing habit from scratch. He gave people a really simple cue, that filmy feeling on their teeth, and he promised a very clear reward, a beautiful white smile.
Now, it seems like a perfect habit loop, right? Cue, you feel the film. Routine, you brush your teeth. Reward, you get a beautiful smile. But that simple formula, on its own, wasn't enough to get millions of people to start brushing every single day. Something else was going on.
And that something was craving. See, Hopkins had, maybe without even realizing it, included ingredients like mint oil that left this cool, tingling sensation, and people started to crave that feeling. It became the real signal that their mouth was clean. Cravings are the engine of the habit loop. It's that intense anticipation of the reward that really drives the behavior.
Okay, so that's how habits get built. But how in the world do we change them? Well, it all comes down to what's known as the golden rule of habit change. It's surprisingly simple.
So let's imagine a really common habit. The cue is that stressed out feeling after a long day at the office. The routine is to pour yourself a drink. And the reward is that feeling of relaxation and escape that you're really after.
Now, the golden rule says you don't fight the cue and you don't ignore the craving. Instead, you keep the same cue and the same reward, but you swap in a new routine. So in this case, instead of having that drink, you could go for a run. You still get that reward, that feeling of relaxation and escape, but you've essentially hijacked the old loop with a much better behavior. And this isn't just some nice theory. It's exactly why a program like Alcoholics Anonymous is so incredibly effective. AA helps people figure out the specific cues and rewards that trigger their drinking. And then it gives them a whole new set of routines, like going to a meeting or calling a sponsor, that deliver on those very same cravings for companionship or relief.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. Some habits are way more important than others. They're called Keystone Habits. And when you change one of them, it can set off this amazing chain reaction that totally transforms everything else. I love this quote because it really gets to the heart of it. Success isn't always about these huge, extraordinary efforts. It's about making ordinary, fundamental things so automatic that they become a massive advantage. And that's what Keystone Habits do.
Keystone habits are powerful because they create these small wins that build momentum. For a lot of people, exercise is the ultimate keystone habit. They start working out and then almost magically, without even really trying, they start eating better, they're more productive at work, they feel less stressed. One habit just creates this cascade of positive changes. It's a domino effect.
A great example of this in an organization is the story of Alcoa. When Paul O'Neill took over as CEO, he shocked everyone by ignoring profits and focusing on just one thing: worker safety. By creating new safety routines, a keystone habit, he transformed the entire company culture. The results were just staggering. Injuries plummeted and, unbelievably, the company's profits grew 5 times larger.
So here's the bottom line. Habits are not destiny. They can be understood, they can be redesigned, the science is there, the framework is pretty clear. So the only real question left to ask is, which habit are you going to change first?